53 hours, 15 minutes, actually 25 minutes. Check that with the 425 start. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Black Friday. Happy post-Thanksgiving. Tone DeShields, Rob Ellis hanging out with you. What's up, everybody in the chat? Tone, I want to start with you. How was your Thanksgiving, my man?
Oh, man, Thanksgiving was great. Me and the wife put together an amazing spread. Couldn't ask for anything better or anything more. And in the night, playing some, some games, some Uno. You know what I mean? Just took it easy. And I made a QVC purchase. That's the fun thing about it, right?
Wow.
You know those channels where they're constantly selling you stuff, and all they do is sell.
Yep.
And typically those channels are reserved for the ladies and the people. Let's say the elder statesmen, right?
Yeah. The veterans,
the veterans, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I found myself watching QVC and HSN for like 3 hours for some reason. Maybe it was the food. Maybe it was the food coma. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But I got stuck on the couch and I didn't feel like going to pick up the remote. And all of a sudden, I ended up buying a water pick. So there we go.
Nice. I love it. All right. So it's good to see everybody. We got Twiz. We got Puka, South Jersey, Decoy. I'll even give William a little love. Father Sean. Broke the mold. Guillermo, what is up, everybody? If I missed any, Chuck, what's up? If I missed anybody, appreciate you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, had a good Thanksgiving. We had about 10-ish people here, somewhere around there.
Okay, we're okay.
Yeah, it was cool, man. We turkey crushed, great sides, unbelievable. It was a team effort. Wife made the turkey, son made the mashed potatoes and the mac and cheese. My daughter made sweet potatoes, a bunch of stuff. It was a good team effort, man, and I supervised. So
you supervised, huh? Okay. Any leftovers?
Yes. Oh, plenty of leftovers, man.
Same here.
Yes,
Same here. I didn't realize how much food me and the wife made until we were sitting down making our plates, and all of a sudden we look up. It's like, damn, we can invite some people over for this thing.
That's right. Or we're good for a couple weeks here. So either way is good.
Man, oh man. What did we had? We had the turkey, we had the ham, we had the baked macaroni and cheese, stuffing, collard greens, candied yams. My wife likes cranberry sauce. What else do we have on that table, man? With the gravy, all that kind of stuff, and had the bottle of wine right there. Had some nice casual jazz playing in the background. You know what I mean? Just taking it easy and enjoying it. We had some apple pie, cornbread, Hawaiian rolls. Can't go wrong with can't go wrong with Hawaiian rolls.
Underrated Hawaiian rolls.
Sweet potato pie. We pretty much did it. It was nice. It was cool, man. Everything came out great.
Yeah,
I was pretty proud of myself.
That's nice, man. Good. It was your first. I know it was your first one, away from the family. So that's
man, just me and the wife. First one away from our family. So it was different, but pretty much stayed in constant contact with the family, checking in. It was pretty good though. Everything worked out though.
Great, man. That's the beauty of FaceTiming and everything else we can do now. So good, man. Everything went well. Yeah. How was the Cheerio crusted turkey? Asks John.
That is hilarious.
There we go. Hold on. There we go. Man, these things fly so fast. Yes, it was beautiful. I wish I could have had that, but it was good. Everything else.
You should think about making like a Cheerio crusted sweet potato pie. That'd be interesting for you. Honey nut. Well, you don't like honey nut. Never mind.
I know. I go regular. Chuck, way to go, Rob. Gamecock Nation. Yeah, I'm repping the squad up here. My daughters are going to Clemson game is this weekend. So at Williams-Brice, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be absolutely awesome. Yeah, and Clemson's had a bit of a down year. South Carolina hasn't been great this year, but it's a great rivalry. The schools are about 2 hours apart. It's very, very cool. My daughter was going to go, but she's home. So I'll take that trade off any day of the week. Anyway, good to be hanging out with all you guys. And the other thing about yesterday, Tone, is, all you were really looking for was for one of the teams to help you yesterday, right? It was asking a little bit too much to get all three, but you did get help.
The most significant one. The most significant one.
Yep. The early game was the biggest one because what you really needed was the one team that still had 2 losses to get off your tail a little bit. And for Green Bay to go in there and beat Detroit yesterday was huge because now Detroit is 8-3, and the Eagles are sitting there not only as the lone team with 1 loss, but now you got a little bit of spread between you and the next team. So the way the NFC, and we'll get really heavily into those games in a little bit. in the show. But if you look at the NFC playoff standings right now, it's Eagles 9-1, San Fran 8-3, Detroit 8-3. Dallas is in that 5 hole because New Orleans is the leader in their division. But basically, what you're looking at here is San Fran 8-3, Detroit 8-3, and Dallas 8-3. So all in all, successful day, even though the Eagles didn't have to do anything yesterday, for sure. Good work out of Green Bay, big time.
Yeah, man. It was a domination too. Like they controlled that game pretty much from beginning to end.
They're getting better, by the way. Green Bay.
They are 2 back-to-back wins against some pretty high quality opponents, I would say. I know the Chargers are underwhelming on the on the scorecard in terms of the record, but they're a talented bunch. And then you followed up beating the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving in their stadium. That's no small feat, especially what we know about Green Bay. So maybe they're trending in the right direction. Could Green Bay sneak into the NFC playoff race? You never know. Now they're tied with the Vikings. The Vikings gotta make some moves, man.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll tell you, excuse me. The more I see of Detroit, I respect them, but the more I see of them, to me, it's really. I know they don't play anybody the rest of the way, quote unquote, but I think it's a 2-horse race after the Eagles. I think it's the 2 teams I'm truly, I guess, concerned whatever with are San Fran and Dallas. Sorry.
Right. And I think that's something we knew from the beginning.
Yeah.
Detroit was a team that we knew was trending up, but their recent success is refreshing. But they're still not quite there yet. There's still some deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the DB room. They're still about a year or so away from being able to compete with teams like the Niners, the Eagles, the Cowboys. And, I don't really think too highly of the Cowboys, but I respect them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, it's so funny, right? It kind of brings me to this question I asked you before we got on, right? The Eagles do have the league's best, NFL's best record with 9-1, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Cowboys are sitting at 8-3, Niners are 8-3. Lions are 8-3, right?
Yeah.
But it still seems like the Eagles are still trying to prove themselves to the masses, right? You look at these other teams that that we're comparing them to, right? 49ers, in terms of scoring differential or point differential between these teams. The Eagles, their point differential is plus 61, but when you look at San Fran, point differential plus 140, the Cowboys plus 162. So it begs the question, are the Philadelphia Eagles one of the more underrated Super Bowl contenders coming out of the NFC?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they are. By the way, let me just give you a little breaking news here. The Commanders have fired Jack Del Rio and their defensive backs coach are both gone. Wow. So they've gotten rid of both of those guys.
Seems a bit premature, if you ask me. And the reason I say premature is because I don't think that's your sole issue. And where are you going? Do you expect that move to position you better to make a play? I don't understand. It kind of seems like cutting your nose to spite your face to me. I don't know. You tell me, man. I don't think Jack Del Rio is a bad coordinator, bad defensive coordinator, bad head coach for sure, but not a bad defensive coordinator. You traded away your 2 best edge rushers.
That's
what
right.
do you expect to happen?
Yep.
It's kind of, listen, man. These ownership groups, these GMs, man, it's all about self-preservation these days.
I agree with you, and a coach too. I mean, let's face it. And the statement that the Commanders put out this morning, this is from Josh Harris. This morning, I spoke with Coach Rivera, and he recommended that the team make changes at defensive coordinator and defensive backs.
He recommended that.
Yeah, he recommended it. So this was coming from the coach, basically, not even the owner. And yeah, I don't know what you expect when you're going to trade away.
A guy who's going to get fired someone.
Correct. Yeah, like if I'm Josh Harris after that putrid effort yesterday, I don't think it really matters. I don't think they're making the playoffs no matter who the coach is, and they're already in sell mode. But I would have made a whole wholesale change. Rivera would have been gone too.
Yeah.
But we've already seen now one head coach, one general manager, and one offensive coordinator in Vegas, offensive coordinator in Buffalo, offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, now defensive coordinator and defensive backs coaches already bounced.
I'm willing to argue, because I watched part of that game yesterday, and there was a strong span in that game where the Commanders' defense kept that offense in the game. There were many drives in a row. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 drives, if I'm not mistaken, where that Commanders' defense stepped up big time, especially like early on in the third quarter. For the better part of the third quarter, really, they were getting 3 and outs. They were getting tackles for loss. They were creating opportunities for the offense. And I'm seeing Eric Bieniemy with these mind-boggling play calls on 3rd and 1. On 2nd and 3rd and 1. On 3rd and 1, you throw a deep shot when all you need is the 1 yard to keep your drive going.
Yep.
You throw a deep shot for some odd reason, and you don't get it. And then you go for it on 4th down. It was almost like they did it backwards.
Yeah.
Instead of
it was terrible play calling.
It was terrible on offense. And I think Sam Howell did everything he could to keep that team in the game. He didn't turn the ball over. I think he turned towards the end. I think in the 4th quarter he threw a pick 6, if I'm not mistaken. But for the better part of that game, he was protecting the ball. He was efficient. He was effective. They were able to move the ball, but whenever they got across the 50-yard line, Eric Bieniemy kind of turned into a pumpkin. So I don't think they gave up 40 points. Yes, I get that, right? Or 30, whatever it was. But a team that limited on defense, the fact that they held you into the game that long, you got to score some points. At some point against the Dallas Cowboys, the levees are going to break. You cannot put your defense in a position like that. If you're the offense, you got to score. You got to help them out.
Absolutely.
I don't think they were the problem. I know they put up all those points, but I don't think they were the problem. I just don't.
But again, just makes you glad where you are. So your question was before we hit that breaking news. Are they underrated? Yeah, I think they are. I think they're. It's weird. I think they get more. Respect / recognition nationally than they do locally. I think in part because we're a little bit spoiled. We want style points now, and I think in part because we see that it isn't perfect right now. And the expectation is that you don't want something biting them in the butt in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. And the Eagles haven't played their A game yet completely. So I think it's kind of twofold tone. I don't think it's just nationally. I think we're a little tough on this group locally too.
Yeah. I used to, every time we had this conversation, I used to always give you a little pushback about the locally part.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to believe you because there are still people who talk about the Eagles who are 9-1 as if they're 7-4.
Right.
Right. Or 7-3 or 7-4, however you want to put it. Or they talk about them as if they're only have 7 wins, 8 wins. They talk about them as if they're not leading the pack. Although they have not played their best game or the most complete games, they've been very consistent in how they win. Yep. And that is in the fact that they can win in a multitude of ways, and they do everything that it takes to win. They've been winning team football games. You know what I mean? It's been a lot of complimentary football or other sides of the ball rather have kind of been stepping up if the other side is kind of leaking a little bit. They've been holding each other down for several weeks in a row. And on top of that, they have high quality victories to boot. That's the thing, right? And I talked about this. I think I talked about it with Dan yesterday or the other day. A lot of people talk about this Eagles team and they question the legitimacy. And I think that's because they can't qualify or quantify what the Eagles are doing. They have a hard time understanding how is this team still winning these games? How are they winning in this fashion?
I think too, it's hard to wrap your head around 9-1. The last 2 years. It's hard to wrap your head around 14-3, 9-1, 23-4. In the last 27 games,
especially when the 9-1s look different, right? This 9-1 looks totally different than last year's 9-1.
It does. No, for sure. And I think the other thing is we're so offensive geared. Like we're so. If it doesn't look clean on offense, we're gonna take some points off because maybe it doesn't look as good. Because I think we're just so geared and wired towards offense. So I think that's part of it too. It doesn't look quite.
It's not a clean game.
No, but you know what's funny? like the points per game total per game last year versus this year is very similar. They've gotten it in different ways, but it's very similar. It's not far off. Now, that said, we know if we're watching this, the offense hasn't been as smooth and fluid as we want it to be. And you feel it, you're still waiting for that game where it was like we saw it all today. We saw Hurts look awesome. The running game was there, all the weapons and blah, blah, blah. That hasn't happened yet. You know, I think there's been more complete defensive efforts than offensive efforts, be it the Miami game. You only gave up 23 against Dallas last week against Kansas City. I don't feel like we've stepped away from that. I think there's, even though Buffalo's defense is good numbers wise, I think there's some opportunities this week. They have some injuries, and I think the Eagles should be able to score some points in this game. I'll be concerned if the offense doesn't look good against this Buffalo team.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And we're definitely going to break this down more as the show goes. But although the Lions did lose, they fell to 8-3. The Eagles are still 9-1. They have to win this game on Sunday to take a commanding 2-game lead, right? You know, they can't just lose that game and then they're back in square one. So they have to win this game to solidify that 2-game lead on the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Lions. So far, so good. They're 2-0 in this 6-game stretch. I think it continues, and we're going to give our score predictions later on as the show goes. But you're right, though. The defense has put together some really stellar performances, especially in the second half, and that speaks to Sean Desai's ability to adjust. And it just so happens that some of his best performances that the defense has been able to provide has come against some of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa. He had a strong, no one really talks about this, but they had a strong third quarter against the Dallas Cowboys that allowed them to get an 11-point lead going into the fourth. Shutting down Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the second half of that matchup. And people forget, although the Rams don't have a great record now, at that time, that offense was electric and they were humming. They were putting up points and they were competitive. Obviously, they've tapered off, but at that time, that offense was generating a lot of static for opposing defenses. And then you shut down Patrick Mahomes completely in the second half. They weren't able to put up any points. Now, sure, did the receivers drop some balls? Yeah, but that's not the Eagles' problem, right? The reality is those guys got to do their job, and the Eagles got to do theirs. And also another thing as well, although they didn't put up any points in that second half, let's be honest about this. When you really look at it, did the game really just hinge on Marquez Valdez-Scantling drop? It huge? It was a huge play.
It was huge. No, there were a lot of things that.
Was that really their issue? No, they couldn't put up any points in the second half. It wasn't just that throw or the drops. They couldn't get any offense going. They stopped running the ball. They were just. And
the Eagles got 2 takeaways in big spots. The Byard interception, was, I believe, a red zone interception, or at least
red zone in the first half. Yep.
Kelsey's absolutely was in the red zone. So something that's been an issue for this defense all year was taking the ball away, and they had 2 massive takeaways in that game.
Absolutely. So, I got a question for you now, right? So far, they've checked your box of being able to, force the action, make some plays on defense to give their offense more opportunities. They've done that in the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
And again, I want to iron this out and and flush it out more and more as the show goes. But just to get the wheels turning for you, how much can this defense build on that second half performance on the road in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? How can they stack that performance on top of another one this Sunday? Especially it's the fact that they there's nothing more that can improve your confidence than shutting down Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the second half of a football game.
All right, so here the answer is yes for a number of reasons, in my opinion. Number one, you only got 1 sack last week. You impacted plays in a positive way, but you only got 1 last week. This team could absolutely get more sacks per game, which is going to bode well for them. Number 2, Byard starting to look more comfortable. Roby in the slot. Today, Nick Sirianni wouldn't rule out Avonte Maddox maybe coming back this season.
Get out. Really?
Yes. So I'm just going to throw that out there. That's a long shot, but there's a shot.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think that Slay and Bradbury, older guys, needed some rest. They got some rest. I didn't see a ton from Jordan Davis in the Chiefs game. I expect him to bounce back this week. I think it was an anomaly the way that the Chiefs ran on the Eagles in the first half. They're a very good run team. They can make teams one-dimensional. So can they build on this? Absolutely, they can build on this. And the good thing is maybe they started, they kind of broke the seal on getting turnovers, which had been a problem for them this season. So, yeah, I think there's every reason to believe this defense. See, I think there's room for improvement on both sides of the ball. The offense, definitely, without a question. And the defense, surely. I mean, I think there's a lot more there. And I think Sean Desai is good. I'm starting to really feel good about Desai and what he's doing here in terms of adjustments and whatnot. So, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. On top of that, the players are responding, right?
Yeah.
We've seen situations where it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If guys aren't responding to the guy in charge, they're not, it's going to show on the field. Case in point, Chargers. They're talented on defense, yet for some reason they can't stop anybody. But when you really look at the Eagles defense, some would argue, well, the back end is really more so names than talent. But I still believe Darius Slay and James Bradbury are two of the better corners in the NFL. Not the best, but they're on the better side of things. If you had two sides of a school gym and you said bad corners to the left, good corners to the right, I think Bradbury and Slay would go to the right with the good corners. And then you have Kevin Byard, a guy who has experience, a guy, again, bad safety to the left, good safety to the right. I still will put Kevin Byard on the good side of safeties. Reed Blankenship is showing that he's a reliable, good safety. I think he's actually the highest rated Eagles DB so far through this season, according to PFF. I think his PFF ratings is in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been the highest rated DB for the Philadelphia Eagles through the entire season, believe it or not, when he's been on the field. And then you have Bradley Roby, a guy who's starting to settle in. I think this defense is trending in the right direction. And as long as Sean Desai can continue to stack these performances, and he's been doing it again against the better quarterbacks. Sure. It's kind of been the lower quarterbacks who's kind of just been able to just have free reign, because I think it's because he I don't know. You see Sam Howell do his thing, and you see these other quarterbacks kind of just have fun.
And it's puzzling how that happens.
It is puzzling, but at least I can roll with that. A guy who shows up in the biggest games against the biggest quarterbacks in the biggest moments, I'll take that. And again, the team is 9-1, but again, that goes without saying. The offense has to improve as well, and I expect a lot of things from Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown this Sunday. But we're going to talk about that as well as the show goes too.
I mean, if you think for a second that AJ Brown catching one ball for 8 yards isn't going to light a fuse, for him this week and going forward, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't been watching this guy, so I expect AJ Brown to get loose in a big way this week. All right, let's do this, because there was an impassioned plea, Tone, from Nick Sirianni on Wednesday regarding Brian Johnson, and he sort of circled back to it today as well, and really went to bat for him. And not, look, I get it. Some people would say, "Oh, of course he does." Yeah, not surprisingly, he wasn't going to bash his offensive coordinator, but really said that people don't understand, aren't seeing what's going on here, et cetera. So let's talk about that. Let's look at this Eagles offense a little bit and dig into a bunch of other things. We got a lot to do here today. A lot to do. Bill's defense is vulnerable. There's some things that we'll get into with that, and what you have to be leery of with this, because they are still a talented team and a desperate team. So a lot to do between now and the end of the program. We'll get into our full-blown preview of all the games this weekend. We'll look back. Have a game today, actually. Dolphins and the Jets.
Strange time, right?
Yeah, Black Friday game. I think the NFL is going to start. We're going to get, this is the first one, Tone. You watch next year. Double header. Triple header the next year. And I'm telling you, man, it used to be just they would give it up to the college ranks. And the NFL is Jaws. And they're eating everything that's in the way, man.
They're like Pac-Man. They just waka. They just coming out of everything.
Yes, exactly right. All right, let's do all. By the way, I was more of a Miss Pac-Man than a Pac-Man fan.
What's so crazy? Like, obviously Pac-Man came out way before, but like, I've always wondered, like, what's the stark difference between the two?
The graphics, not that they're like we say graphics. Today it's almost.
I know what you mean by those standards. I got you.
Those standards back then, they were better, and there was like more levels to go to, and the power pellets were better. I'm getting really geeky, but yes, there was a lot.
You're all good. I like this, Rob.
The banana, the whole thing. Anyway, all right, let's get a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue with the Eagles discussion. Don't go anywhere. That's Tone to Shields. I am Rob Ellis. We're hanging with you on this Football Friday. It's Friday. You just cooked. You just did everything. You went crazy yesterday, right? The last thing you feel like doing is cooking today. So I got the perfect spot for you. It's Bravo Pizza of Havertown. You pop in there, man. All kinds of choices. All right. Bravo Pizza of Havertown, 20 different styles of pizza. They have slices to go. They have the specialized pizza however you want it. But if you don't feel like eating pizza, pasta, sandwiches, wraps, wings, salads. And the other thing is Bravo Pizza of Havertown is committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, for little leagues, for the local schools, you name it. They're always looking to help people out. You can follow them at the Bravo Pizza of on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions. They're located at 1305 Westchester Pike in the Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown, PA. 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown. Give them a call, 610-446-3810, 610-446-3810. Here's a little bit more from Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
I remember getting my heart broken when they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. We're big Eagles fans. We moved to South Philly because of the Eagles. When they won, we went straight to Broad Street, and everybody was going nuts over there, and it was just a memory that you'll never forget.